All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of A Tailor-Made Life, where every conversation is one step closer to designing the life that God has for you. I am your host, Taylor Renee, and as always, I'm so excited to have you back. We've just made it past our 8th episode, so that means we've been at this for 2 months. This has been an amazing, it's just an amazing journey to embark on with you guys. So excited, just happy to be here as always. Happy that you're here. I wanted to kind of get into this because this past week, I've been having this debate between some of my peers, and it's just, I don't know, it's interesting, right? It's an interesting concept that I think we battle more often than not. And it's the idea, the concept of working a 9-to-5 versus being an entrepreneur, right? Obviously there are benefits, there are pros and cons to both of those. There are positives and negatives with everything. Specifically in this day and age though, I feel like society, our culture now it just kind of force feeds us entrepreneurship. And I think that's amazing in some ways, right? But I do think at this point in time, some of us are stepping into entrepreneurship a little prematurely, right? Some of us should be working 9-to-5s. Some of us should be entrepreneurs. But the idea of if you don't work a 9-to-5, if you're not making 6 figures by the time you're 25, then you're not successful is absurd to me. And so it's kind of force-fed this idea of success to us and it only looking a certain way. I think it's important to kind of take that invisible pressure off of yourself, especially as a young person who may be working in a corporate space or who may be working for a business or who is aspiring to be an entrepreneur. Either way, I think the idea of success being linear is what we want to debunk, right? And so we're gonna get into it, right? I obviously am a 9-to-5 girly. Like I'm corporate all day long. I've worked in a lot of corporate spaces. I've also worked in a more independent space. And as a little girl, I fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship. Like I always wanted to have something of my own. I have a friend and we would create new business ideas for fun, like over the weekends, So I always grew up in it. My mom is an entrepreneur. Like I've been immersed into that world. I know what it looks like firsthand and I think it is beautiful, right? And so there is a duality there. There's a two things can be true at once where yes, you can work in a corporate space. It doesn't mean that you're going to be doing that forever, right? And you can also have entrepreneurial aspirations. But I think my biggest stick with that is just it being premature. And on social media, they only show the pros of being an entrepreneur and they only show the cons of working for a 9-to-5. When in reality, there is pros and cons to both of them. Like being an entrepreneur is great. It's a lot of freaking work, okay? And it's not all glitz and glamour like how they make it look on Twitter. Being in a 9-to-5 is also great. It is launching you into different spaces. You're getting a multitude of lessons and skills that you're learning at the expense of somebody else's business. As somebody who works in a corporate space, I have been able to identify a lot of the pros of working in that environment, right? One of the things I'd say obviously means that you're surrounded by real business structure, right? You're surrounded by an infrastructure that has been created, it's been tried, it's been tested, it's been, right? So in that, you are around high-performing people. Now, to some that doesn't sound like much, but if you are an ambitious person, you appreciate being around other ambitious people. You appreciate managerial structure. You appreciate protocols and procedures and meeting times and call time. Like you appreciate those things because it quite literally yields success. So being in a space, being in any 9-to-5, you understand that, hey, when I go to work, regardless of your actual role and what that entails, when I go to work, there is structure there. There is a infrastructure that is built. There is security there, right? There's something that I can yield to, something that I can submit myself to because I know what to expect. Going to work and understanding, knowing that you are a part of something that is greater than you is kind of slept on. Another thing is, I kind of mentioned before, but it's just being in proximity to people that you either aspire to be like, or whose roles you may admire, or just people that are doing things differently from you. Just like-minded, high-performing people. You have exposure to them. You have proximity to them. You are in the same room, in the same spaces as them, so you are able to look to them and say, hey, okay, I really like what you're doing. I like how you handle things. I like how you manage rooms. You have access to them because you work in the same space as them, right? These are the things that are kind of slept on, that aren't talked about at all. Another one is just gaining soft skills. I don't even think people understand the importance of a soft skill, the importance of relationship management, the importance of effective communication, the importance of timeliness. Things that you learn on the front end of working in any corporate space. These are the things that are quite literally ingrained into corporate culture, that once you enter it, you have no choice but to put up or shut up, right? But to other people, to people who are outside of that world, it's kind of foreign to them. They don't understand that because they aren't used to it, right? It's not a requirement. And you can be annoyed by some of these things, but when you step out of that world, like going from a corporate space to an independent space, you see the value, right? You start to realize, oh, okay, things are a little different over here. I remember, interning during the summer, and it was an independent music company, and I'm like, oh, this is different, right? There wasn't as much structure. There weren't any meeting times. There weren't any calls. There was protocol for certain things. I'm like, this is different, right? And so the things that were inherently normal for me were foreign to them. Does that make sense? So another thing though, and this is by far one of the biggest things that I think of, is that being in a company that is actually successful, that has created infrastructure that actually works and yields results, is one of the biggest learning tools ever. Being a part of learning how to run a business by actually being in a successful business is mind-blowing, right? So like I said, I do have aspirations of being an entrepreneur, right? I want to own my own music group. Working for music groups, working for music companies, being in spaces where I'm seeing how a music business is structured is only going to broaden my knowledge for when it's time for me to become an entrepreneur. Does that make sense? Being a part of a business that is actually successful on the front end, being a part of that team, being a part of that culture is only going to yield success for me, right? Because I'm learning how they're doing. I'm learning how to create procedures. I'm learning business models and different structures and ROIs. I'm learning what those things mean and how to implement them into a successful business. That's the hidden gem, right? That's not talked about when this discussion is happening between a 9-to-5 versus entrepreneurship. People don't talk about all of the good things, all of the lessons and the successes that you are able to take away. Because I feel like, again, a lot of people who work these 9-to-5s, they only take home a paycheck. They only looking to get paid. They're only looking for a paycheck. And it's yeah, you earn your keep, of course, but don't just take home a paycheck, right? Take home some knowledge. Soak all of these things up in. Be amongst a learning group. Build those relationships, foster them. Those are the things that you're going to need when it is time for you. If entrepreneurship is in your calling, or even just going to a next role, going to another company, or going to another job. These are all of the things that you're getting from this one corporate role that is so slept on. But don't just take home a paycheck. Take home bring some knowledge home with you as well. And use this time as your launching pad for your next move. Okay, so moving on to the cons, right? Because obviously, like I said before, corporate spaces have their negatives as well. So I'd say the obvious one, right, is a limited income ceiling. in a corporate space, you're only going to get paid as much as they feel like you're worth, right? If they feel like you're worth $85,000 a year, then that's what you're going to get. Nothing more, nothing less. So obviously, as you grow and as you mature in your career, you may feel like, oh, I want to be making more than $85,000. Like, I'm worth way more than that. But in a corporate space, that's what you're set at. That's what your ceiling is, right? So the idea of not being able to freely earn at a rate that you would like to is definitely a downside. Another one is the limited control, right? Because you're in a space that is under somebody else's jurisdiction. So they ultimately tell you what to do. They define your role. Now, there is obviously nuance within that, within corporate spaces nowadays, but you are ultimately under somebody else's situation. Like, you have a manager, you have a supervisor, they have managers and supervisors, you are under control of somebody else. So the amount of creative control and freedom that you may want to have within your role is limited. It is actually cut off at a certain point, in that it's not fun all the time, right? You can't do what you want when you want, how you want to do it. It doesn't work like that. And another thing that is, I'd say was one of the biggest cons for myself, is just the idea of funding somebody else's dream. Like, I'm working in a space that is somebody else's manifestations, not mine. Like, I work for a big company. This is his dream, right? This is his dream coming to life. This is his manifestation. This isn't mine. So as much as I'm so appreciative and just grateful, right? I do think about my dreams. I do think about the things that I want, how I want to run a business, how I want to run a company. And I can't do that under his, I can't do that under somebody else's company. I have to, so that's, again, a really big con of mine. Like, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth when I think about, me giving all of my time, all of my energy into somebody else instead of my own. But this goes back to the point that I made earlier. I understand the idea of real entrepreneurship, right? I know what real entrepreneurship looks like because I've seen it. And I can tell you right now that entrepreneurship is literally having nothing and creating something from that. Like, it's creating everything from nothing, right? Think about building a house, right? You see this land and, I want to build a house on this land. Okay, let me explain entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is you creating the bricks, right? You got to create the product. You have to create whatever you're about to sell. You have to create the brick, and then you have to go and build the house, and then you need to create the plans, the architecture, the infrastructure. That's what entrepreneurship is. You creating all of these things before you could even make a profit, before you could even make anything. When I think about the entrepreneurs that I know, how much work and time and effort and that they've put into their establishment, into their business, I'm just appalled. And it honestly, it intimidates me. And I'm not trying to intimidate, you guys, but it's grueling work. Now, of course, with that comes a lot of positives, right? It comes with a lot of pros, right? It's freedom. I think entrepreneurship, if I had to describe it in any way, it would just be, it's like the epitome of career freedom. It is quite literally the epitome of doing what you want, when you want, how you want it, because you are creating it, right? But within that as well, there are no boundaries unless you create them. There is no real balance unless you create it, right? But you get ownership, full ownership. Obviously, it's yours. Creative control, right? And the thing that I love is just the sense of accomplishment that comes from creating something from the ground up. You appreciate it differently when it's yours. When you put the blood, the sweat, and the tears into it, right? You get there's a high, almost metaphorically, that comes because you've proved to yourself that you have the ability to create something grand from absolutely nothing, right? I'm so inspired by all of the entrepreneurs, all of the young people that I know who have created something, who've built a brand around themselves just to see that you didn't have a blueprint. You didn't have telling you what to do. You got it out of the mud. Like, you did this yourself. So, that leads me to the cons, though, because, again, like I said, we see everything on Instagram. We see it all on the media. But entrepreneurship is just that, right? It's no structure. It's no security, no roadmap, nobody telling you what to do. You think working in the corporate space, you're working 40-hour weeks. No, as an entrepreneur, you're pushing 80, 90 hours a week easily because, again, there's nobody there. Nobody else is going to do it. So you have to do quite literally everything. Another thing is that it requires your full mental, financial, and time investment. Being an entrepreneur is not for the weak-hearted, and it's also not for the broke. Let me rephrase that, because I know some people who didn't have money who started a business, but the amount of money that it takes, the amount of money that you are going to lose in entrepreneurship is like no other. The amount of times you're going to hear no is like no other. The amount of bad deals that you may make is going to be like no other. It's so much space for freedom, but it's also so much room for error, right? I'm not saying that to be discouraging or to deter you from it, but it is to make you aware, because again, when I see all these entrepreneurs online, I'm only seeing all the good things that are happening, all the amazing deals that they made or the amazing branding that they've done. They don't talk about how they lost $10,000 from a bad deal, or how they signed to somebody and this person stole all of their money, or we don't really get into those things. And so when you are thinking about launching that business, starting that company or whatever it is, right? Think about that. Think about how much time, effort, work, and money that's going to have to go into it. And don't use it as a deterrent, like I said, but there should be reverence for entrepreneurship. There should be a lot of thought, a lot of intentionality that goes into your decision of whether or not you decide to start a company. It's so many small business owners who are literally just don't have a clue as to what they're doing. And it's not a sense of, oh, I'm figuring it out. Oh, I don't have a clue of what I'm doing, but I'm working towards something. No, they don't have a clue of what they're doing, and they don't care that they don't know, right? They're just doing it for the aesthetics. I do not want you to become one of those people. I also don't want you to become somebody who is stuck in a corporate space and only there because you know it's safe. You know what to expect. So even if God is calling you to entrepreneurship, you don't want to go because you're getting paid good. You don't have to think about much. It's easy. It's easy living. It's easy, breezy, beautiful. The main thing that I want to bring to this conversation is that neither one of them are better than the other. Right? I'm not telling everybody to go out there and get a job. And I'm also not telling everybody to go out there and start a business. Neither one of them is the right answer. I think it's more about, again, being aligned. What is God calling you? What does He have for you in this season? If you are being called to be in a corporate space and work a 9-to-5, do that and do it well, right? Because what I don't want is for you to be called in that space and you be so eager or so influenced by the girl on Instagram who has a 7-figure business that you think you can just jump out there and do that. No, God didn't call that for you. He wanted you to stay right there in that corporate space and glean and learn from these people before you step out and do that, right? Same thing as for an entrepreneur. You are, starting this business, you have a business, and God didn't have that for you yet. You really don't know what you're doing. It's much more than what you anticipated. You didn't understand any of the things that I just explained. You just went out there, was feeling froggy, and jumped. And now you're in a space where you are struggling mentally, physically, financially. You don't know what to do, right? And it's like God didn't necessarily call that for you either. So it's more so about the season that you're in. Think about where God has called you before you make a decision to do both. We don't confuse influence with your calling. Everything that glitters isn't gold, right? It's not about what looks better or what feels the safest. What has God called you to do? What season are you in? If He's called you to start that business and you've been in your corporate job for 10 years, and God is finally saying, hey, go start your business, and you don't want to do it because you're scared, you're intimidated, and you don't want to sacrifice your stability, then you're no better than the person who decided out of thin air that they were just going to create this business out of nothing. Both of them are foolish mistakes because it's not what God called. It's not what God had for you. So for my corporate people, keep gleaning, man. Keep gleaning, keep learning, keep soaking up all of the information that you can get. Keep fostering those relationships and use your time intentionally. This is your launching pad to whatever God has next for you. Use it intentionally. For my business owners, for my entrepreneurs, don't hold back. Don't spare an expense. You have a craft, study it, learn your audience, right? Study your skills and your passion to fill the learning gaps. I mean, I had a good debate, a good conversation, a peer of mine, and I think the ending was just, if God has it for you, do it. If he does not have it for you, please second guess. Okay? All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, and